Hello here everyone, Jake of All Trades. I just want to remind everyone to make sure that there is no power on, that you've turned off the power to the circuit you're working on. If you do not know how to do that, please consult an electrician. I do not anyone hurt, injured, anything in these videos. I know how to do this stuff. I am a professionally trained person. Please, if you have any concerns, questions, comments, let me know. Thank you. Hello, YouTube world, and welcome back. This is Jake of All Trades. Here we are again today. Had a comment on my video. I also had a friend of mine ask, how do we install faulty outlets? So what I'm going to do today is we're going to take all of this and we are going to not only change an outlet and change a light switch, we are also going to learn how to change an outlet and a switch this way. Stay tuned, here we go. Alright guys, before we get started, I just want to kind of go over a little bit of the cost. So if you're worried about cost on replacing an outlet or a switch, it's not expensive at all. Switch looks like was 89 cents here, and the outlet switch, just your typical switch, and then your outlet, just an everyday typical outlet, 79 cents and 89 cents. So not very expensive for something you can do by yourself, do on your own. Very, very, very cheap to do it on your own. Way cheaper to call an electrician. All right, let's get started building this circuit. Well, I guess before I get started, you'll notice here I have a couple different kinds of screwdrivers. Some are shiny, like these, and some are not, like these. These have a red coating on them. Let's discuss the difference. This is a non-electrician screwdriver. They're not sheathed. If you were to tighten a screw down and you're holding this, your finger here, you're going to get zapped. These are considered electrician screwdrivers. There's different ones. There's a Phillips head, which is your normal four-way that you find in everyday households. You have what I call a flathead or a flat tip. Same thing every day in your house. And then there's this guy. It's, and I don't know if you can see how well, but it looks kind of like a four-way, but it kind of doesn't. This is a special screwdriver just for outlets and switches. It fits right in there real snug. If I was to go ahead and get my Phillips, it's kind of got a little play in there. It's because this screw, if you look at it, is not really a Phillips head screw. It's got a screw in it designed for this type of screwdriver. I don't know what this type of screwdriver is called. This is a Milwaukee screwdriver, part number 48-22-2241. All right, let's get into this. So here we go with our, this is what's going to be our power. I'm going to plug into that outlet down there, but I want to simulate building a circuit from scratch, so I'm going to cheat and use this because I don't need to add any circuits in my home at this time. So we're going to pop off these three screws. They come out really kind of hard because they're designed not to come apart. These are more of an industrial type receptacle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my 14-2 Romex. So 14-2 means this is 14 gauge wire. There's two conductors, and this is with ground. So there'll be 3 wires in this package once we get her opened up. All right, now we've got her. I cut a section off, roughly 6 feet. Now I'm going to strip the wire back. You might notice that I have also two types of strippers here. They're different but similar. They both do the same thing. It's just one one does something more than the other one does. That's why I have two. This one here will cut the sheathing off of 14-2 or 12-2 wire. That way you don't have to worry about cutting into your wiring. So let's open this bad boy up, and then we're going to go into our 14-2 setting here, and we're just going to line it up in the, and I'm going to get a big chunk. This way it'd be easier for you guys to see later. And I'm just going to cut it, shake it a bit, and pull that right off of there. You'll notice here's a little bit, I call it cardboard paper. I don't know the actual term for it. Insulating paper maybe, I don't know. Then I'm going to unravel that guy there, and we'll discuss what these three are here in just a second. All right, now let's discuss these three wires here. There are three different colors for very good reasons. This is your ground wire. It will either be bare or green. This is your hot wire. Hot wire meaning this is where all your juice comes from. This wire is your neutral. AC current, voltage flips back and forth through these two. So when you have a live circuit going, this one's going to be hot and this one's going to be hot. When you have the light turned off, this one's going to be hot. Now sometimes there are more than three wires in here. Sometimes this wire is a little bit thicker. We will get to all that in other videos. All right, back to our strippers. Again here, wire strippers. In the field, they're called strippers. That's just what they're called. On here you notice it says 14 average wire gauge on this side, and there's a little hole in this side. It says 12 average wire gauge, or AWG. That's the size of the wire that you can put into that hole and squeeze it, and it will take that sheathing off without scuffing up your wire. These have the same thing. They're up here. They're just harder to see because these have been used many times. All this stuff we'll get to in other videos later down the road. I'm going to go back to these just because they're a little bit easier on my hands as I'm getting older. And I'm going to take my wire. I'll go about that far, that way it's easier to see. I'm sorry I didn't realize I was off camera there. So we'll strip it, take it, squeeze it, and I like to spin it back once or twice while I'm still squeezing, let go of it, and it pulls right off. I'll get the rest of these stripped up and we'll get back with you. All right, we got those all stripped off. I made them again a little bit longer than I normally do. I've also made this part longer than what I usually do, and I'll illustrate that here in just a second. Now I'm going to hook up my juice to my circuit. So I'm going to feed my wires up to the base of this. Oops. Get it all in there. And now we're going to wire up this plug. How we're going to do that is going to grab our other end of our plug here. And you notice that inside here, there are different colored screws. I talked about green earlier. Green was your ground. Will be that wire will be hooked to that terminal. Your silver lug is always your neutral. Always your neutral. And this brass plug over here, this brass screw over here, is always your hot, which is always black. So stand by, I'm going to wire this up and we'll discuss the next steps. All right, so we got our lugs on there. Now let's assemble the outlet back together, or this side of the outlet, and then we'll move on to wiring up a circuit. All right, typically this outlet would not look like this. This sheathing would come up inside. I wanted to do it long so that everyone could see. So now this is our power side, or what's going to be plugged into my outlet down here to power up our circuit. So now let's move on to the other side of that and get to building. Now let's move on to the portion that you've probably some of you been waiting for. We're going to discuss these little boxes right here. This box is what they call a old construction electrical box. What they mean by old construction is if you have, your house is already built, drywall, I can cut a hole in my wall, put this in, and it will securely stay in the wall due to when you put it back inside the wall, you take your little screwdriver, and the second you turn that up, so what's going to happen, now this is in the back of the wall, as you tighten this screw, it's going to pull this tab forward, bringing it towards the back of the drywall to secure it tightly against this tab here. And there are two of those tabs. And again, this is called an old construction box. They have new construction boxes, some of them plastic, some of them are metal, some of them are circular, hexagonal, square. There's different types of boxes for different needs. If you're not sure what you need, consult someone. If you're doing like I've done here at the house and just cut a hole and added an outlet, you need a box like this with the little tabs on it. Don't know what they're called? Little tabbies, that's what I call them. All right, now let's move on to, so this is your wire, original wire in your house. It's already here. So you won't be dealing with the other side of this yet. So typically the wire runs down inside your box like this. Oops. Wow. Down inside your box, something like this. You'll notice there's a little plastic tab in here. It was attached up here. I just took my pliers and you just smack them down and kind of bend them a little bit. That's what puts the little angle so the wire doesn't come back out easily. So now we have what is in your outlet, your light switch, your pretty much whatever. Does it look like this? It might have cobwebs in it, might have a spider in it, probably dead spiders, but anyway, you'll have these three wires in there. Now let's discuss the outlet that we're replacing. And we're back, and here we have just an everyday, ordinary outlet. There's nothing special about it. I just purchased it at the store we discussed earlier. It is just an everyday outlet. 14.2, 15 amp, nothing special about this outlet. You'll notice that it does look like kind of like a face, a nose, two eyes. You also notice that these holes are different sizes. A lot of people think that doesn't matter. It actually does matter. The smaller holes are for the hot side, which is the black wire. The silver screws are for the neutral side, or the white wire. And then way down here is this little green guy again. He's going to be our ground. Our ground is what goes in here. And our neutral goes in this side, the tall side. And then the brass side, or the hot side, will be the small end of the plug. I'll get some wire here. We'll show you how to bend it up. All right, we're back with the famous wire cutters, strippers, whatever. Good for Romex 12.2, 14.2, which we discussed already. You can find they don't have to be this nice, but a set like this will do the same thing. But you'll need a razor knife or another different type of knife to cut the sheathing back off of the wiring. So we're going to take our little wire strippers here, and at the end there's a little pair of pliers. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's little grips inside here, which people call teeth. Those teeth are designed to grab hold of this wire. I should pull this out more. There we go, now we can see a little better. So what I like to do is just barely go above the wire, pinch it, and then I roll away from me. And I roll it around the top of that till it's about in a hook shape. And I like to make the hook a little bit wider, and I'll show you why here in a second. I went way off camera with that. Sorry about that. Let's do it again. Just above the pliers, and we're just going to roll it. And we open it up back up a little bit, and then we have a little hoop, or half a loop, or whatever you want to call it. And again. All right, now we got our three little loops. Let's move on to this outlet here. And again, on our outlet, we've got the ground, the neutral, and the hot. Does anyone remember which wire goes where? Yes, that's correct. The black wire goes to the hot side, and it's going to go in the wall like this. It doesn't matter which tab you put it on, it will still work off of both outlets. Later in this video, we're going to discuss how we can make one side switched and the other side on at all times. But for right now, we're going to wire this up just as a normal outlet. I'm going to go ahead and use the top tabs for no particular reason. You can use the bottom, doesn't matter. You can even use the top on one side, the bottom on the other side. But in this instance, we're just going to loop that around. We're going to get our weird screwdriver. Again, I don't know what it's called. I apologize. And we're going to stick it in this lug, and we're just going to crank it down. Just like that. Doesn't move. That's what you want. Now let's move on to the other side. And I will let you know ahead of time that some of these can be a pain to turn. See how the lug is on the other side? You want the lug, you want the wire always going as you're tightening. So if you're tightening this way, which you're supposed to, counter or clockwise, you would want the lug or the wire facing this way. Sometimes these can be a pain. You may have to use your pliers to do this. But again, we're gonna crank it down. And I just like to give it just a little extra oomph. No particular reason, again, it's just me. And you see that I did that extra oomph, it actually twisted the wire down. That doesn't make any difference. Nobody's gonna care. Now we'll move on to the ground, last but not least, and you don't have to wire this up in any particular order. I just happen to do it the way that I just did it. Now we're going to tighten him down. And we're going to have to tighten him up a little bit. Take him loose, up out of there. Technical difficulties here. Sorry about that. Throw him back in there. Alright, and we're back. And as you can see, all the wires are connected. They're in here. Now that I pulled my wire out, I'm going to have to make it go back up inside there. Alright, so here we go. Now usually when you're replacing an outlet, you'll probably have about this much wire sticking out. Sometimes you have less, sometimes you have to add wire to that. We'll discuss that at another time. But typically, this is what's sticking out of your outlet. I'm sorry, it will be this way coming out of your wall. And you know, if you have enough, if by chance you did wire it upside down, sometimes you have just enough to spin it back down. So now we're going to stick it back in our slot, and we're going to tighten her down. And I like to put the tabs in the center, and I'll show you what I mean here in a second. This slides a bit. I don't know if you can see that. So I like just to put them in the center. Okay, now we have our outlet back in our box in the wall. But now let's make sure it works. So mine has been unplugged from power, so no risk of getting shocked at all. And we'll discuss that also here in a second. So I'm going to plug mine into the wall, and I'm going to get a little light here, and we're going to see what happens. All right, so now our outlet is back in the wall. We're going to go back out to the garage. We're going to turn back on the power. We went back out there. We've turned it on. Now, how do we know this outlet works? I don't want to put my cover on beforehand, because if it doesn't work, then I have to take the cover back off, and that's just one more step that I don't want to do. So I have a thing called a hot stick. So what this does is this reads AC voltage anywhere between 90 volts AC and 1,000 volts AC. I'm not using anything quite as high as 1,000 volts, but my one AC volt alert meter from Fluke, not sponsored, is what I'm using today. So I turn it on, and we can tell it's on. It's blinking red. Now, as I put it at my wire, it lights up. Now I can go into my outlet and I can stick it into the positive and it lights up red. That means this outlet is hot and it's ready to go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn off our hot stick and we're going to go back to, yes, this. You remember this from the other day, but now we're going to come over here to the 600 and 200 volt AC and we're going to see what happens. So we're going to go over here to this 200 volts AC. And I'm going to try and do this. I don't know if you can see that or not. So now I'm going to take my test leads and I'm going to pull off my sheathing. We discussed that the other day also. And I'm just going to set them up here just to get them out of the way a little bit. Now let's say I'm an inexperienced electrician and I don't know which terminal goes in which pole. So I'm going to take my positive, stick it in here, and I'll take my negative, stick it in here, and you can see, and sometimes they don't touch exactly, but I'm getting 119 volts. I don't know if you can see that. I can't see that. It's getting 119 volts, which is 120 volts. So that means this outlet is live. Now, a lot of you asked me, or were probably wondering earlier, why do I have to hook up 2 of those wires? Why don't I have to hook up 4 wires? Or maybe your outlet at home has 4 wires. There we go. So that's 120 on the top and 120 on the bottom. So what happens is because we didn't cut this little tab in here, and we're going to discuss that in a minute also, we have power to the top and the bottom. To validate that, let's get this little thing of the wipes here and let's plug it in and see if we get something. Now you notice this plug has a little bit fatter tab here and a little bit thinner tab here. You know why that is? That's right, because this is our hot side and this is our neutral side. So on our plug, there we go, we've got a big side and a small side. So we plug it in and hopefully this switch is off because I didn't test this prior to this. I don't know if this light bulb's blown. Okay, there we go. We have power to our light and we should be able to unplug this. Good, good, good. And we should be able to plug it back into the top and look at that, it lights up. So we have just successfully changed an outlet. Now we'll move on to a switched outlet, which is another common thing in a household that some people don't understand how it works. We're going to get to that. All right, y'all. I have went back out to the garage. I have unplugged my circuit or turned it off from the circuit breaker. If you're not sure which breaker it is, just turn them all off. Turn the main off at the very top, and then turn each individual off. And then once you're done with the process, turn the big main one back on, and then turn each individual back on. So to verify that we have no juice through our wire, we're going to turn our meter back on, and this time the beep function's on, which is also nice, but we're going to stick it back in here, and we've got nothing. Now let's go down to our wire, and we've got nothing. But let's go to our, let me plug this back in right quick, and then we'll see the sound. So we're just going to plug it on the wire. We got a beep. We can come here near the outlet, and some of these are powerful enough that they will pick up the signal in the wall. Mine is not, but I can touch the wire. Like if this was an extension cord, and it would tell me that it's plugged in somewhere, and do not take it apart while it's plugged in. So let's turn this off here. Let's unplug this again, and we will get to taking this outlet back out, and then I'm going to show you how a switched outlet works. If you are scared and you're not real sure, again, take your meter, and it's not lighting up, or it's not beeping. So we're okay. So this tab that I was discussing earlier, and I'm going to use my non-electrical screwdriver, is there's a little tab that runs across here. What that little tab does is connects this side to this side, and there's one on each side, as you'll notice. So why are those there, you ask? Well, that's easy. We can make this a switched outlet by simply cutting that tab or breaking it off. Some people break them off, some people cut them off. I have a pair of dikes here. I don't mean that offensive. If you take it offensive, just don't watch my channel. I have a pair of dikes here, diagonal cutters right here. You can reach in, cut this. They also grab hold. See how they fit very, very snugly in that slot. You can bend them back and forth like this, bust off that tab. I'm sorry that made so much noise. Wow, there it goes. Tab is broke. Usually they're not that tough. And I don't know if you can see that little tab, but that tab attached the top side of this outlet. I'm so sorry. The top side of that outlet to the bottom side. Now, if I were to put all this back together and plug it in and plug in my light would not light on this side because I have no hot wire to go from here to here anymore. We're going to make the bottom our switched power. Stand by while I get that, start getting that set up for you. Sorry, I had to make some adjustments. My battery was dying. I didn't realize. Anyway, what I've done is I've went ahead and pre-stripped the wires, got the sheathing off, the white sheathing off. I went ahead and stripped the individual wires, got them ready to go. Now let's talk about this light switch a little bit. You'll notice on this light switch that both of these lugs or terminals are brass. Like on our outlet, one was silver. One side had silver, the two silvers, the other side had the two brass. This one has two brass. That means that both of these are hot. Well, how can I have a circuit when I don't have a neutral or a ground? We're going to get to that. You'll also notice how this light switch is. It says off, meaning this position is off, that position is on. How this works is when you flip this switch up, there's a slider back here that goes from this terminal to make it powered. When you turn it off, it flips it back up. So it just does just this. So stand by while I bring some wires around, and we'll get to building this circuit. Stand by, folks. All right, folks. What I got is I've already pre-wired some stuff because that took way longer than what I thought. So I didn't record it. I'm glad I didn't. As you can see here, we've got a switch. So in a switched setting, this is how, minus these right now, this is how this should be wired. We're going to not talk about these for a minute. So you see I've got my hot, which is this wire, comes in this side, this hot goes into this connector. Now these connectors are in-wall rated, and they are rated for 120 volts AC. Other things that might be in your wall is these things called wire nuts. These are what most people use. I happen to have both. So I have, pre-cut the wire, stuck it in there, folded the thing over, and I have an extra black wire here ran over to this outlet, and we're going to wire that up here momentarily. My apologies before, I did not have my grounds connected. As you can see, I used a wire nut this time. I'm going to go ahead and connect my neutrals also with a wire nut. To do that, we're just going to grab our neutrals, put them, I always put my finger here to kind of line them up, and then we just screw them on, and we screw them again clockwise, and the tighter you get it, the better. Usually when I get mine, it starts turning the wire a little bit. That's when I know that I've got enough. All right, let's get this going. All right, one thing I did want to let y'all know, if you ever do decide to do this on your own and you take that cover off of that outlet or that whatever, and it looks like that inside, yes, they all look like that inside. All that wire that I had hanging out here is either pulled back through the sheathing or back in this box. That's why these boxes are so deep. You will see shallower boxes. Usually those are for low voltage. The wires are much smaller, but as you can see, there's still, you know, a very not pretty inside to that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the covers on and show you the rest. Something I did want to bring up, that if you happen to not have an electrician screwdriver and you do happen to use one of these types of screwdrivers, a non-sheath, the way these fit in here is not very good. This one actually doesn't fit at all, but this thing is designed to seat perfectly in there inside that little ring so that you can get a nice strong grip on that screw. So now we've got our covers on. Yes, I know they're different colors. I did that just so everyone could see the outlet, the cover, the switch, the cover, things of that. So now let's plug this thing in here and see what we get. This is going to be a very crude because this thing does not like to stay still. Okay, so now if I take this little lamp, and the top one should still be working, so there we have it. It works. I will turn that off, that on, turn this off, this on. Nothing changes, so I'm going to unplug this. Now let's plug it in the bottom. No light. So I should be able to flip this. Light comes on. So now you understand what a switched, oh, I don't know if you can see that, what a switched outlet is, and how to wire one, how to see one. No, there's nothing special. You literally have to add one more wire to the bottom of that outlet to make that work. It is just that simple. People, and I understand why people are so afraid, because they don't understand. This is how you do it, folks. If you have any comments, any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comments, and have a great day, and thanks for watching.